Now what I did first for my pieces that I'm going to cut out as a pattern is I went to the iron and I slightly pressed down where I had the pins, and I'm going to show you why I did that. When I take the pins out, you can actually see my crease lines, you can see my pin lines, and you can see my stitch lines. That's going to be important when you have to mark the other side of the garment. And as you see, all of my markings are still there. So I'm going to take my fabric, and now I'm going to open up the scrap fabric, and you only want one piece of fabric. And I'm going to lay these down right sides together. And I'm just going to cut these out so that I'll have two. Now to get your markings on your liner piece, so this is where your tracing paper and your tracing wheel comes into play. I'm going to take my garments, I'm going to lay the fabric, the tracing paper, and I'm going to try to do all this in one get-go. And I'm laying the fabric down on top of it, making sure you line everything up. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to trace the fold line right where I folded it. And I'm also going to trace the stitching line. And the same thing here. You're just tracing over the lines. And this is where when I do my line, I'm drawing it to round it off together. And when you remove it, I don't know if you can see that, but now your lines transfer. So you're going to do that for the front and the back, everywhere you made your pin markings. Now to sew the front, I'm going to start with the, see my lines here? I'm going to pin all the garments on the fold line so that I'll know that's exactly where it needs to be folded. And then you're just going to stitch on the stitching line that's right around it. And as you see right here, this is the front bust. There's that side bust start. And see where I just joined it carefully when I drew it out. And you're just going to pin this all the way around. So I've got all my pieces pinned, and I've gone and sewn all of them, but I left one to show you how to follow the lines. I'm going to try to zoom the camera in on the sewing machine so you can see how I sew right on those lines that I drew with the chalk pencil. You see my lines here? So I'm going to start with my presser foot down. Of course, always back stitch first. And I'm just sewing right on those lines, but I want to show you what to do when you get to the back. This is the back, and when we sew the back, you've got these darts that they have to come to a nice point. So I'm going to show you how to do that. So we'll just keep following our line. Now I'm putting my pin at the mark where I should be coming off of the fabric. So now I'm going to start to angle so that I come off right there and backstitch. Once you do that, you get a nice point at the top and it's not all puckery. Well, we're going to do the same thing for the front. Here's the front piece, and remember the front, when we did the front, we did the line here from the bottom up, but then we had the part where the armhole was, and we joined it. So I made one complete continuous line. I want you to watch me carefully how I do that. Here, starting from the bottom, I'm going to backstitch. I'm following my lines, and as you see, I'm getting closer and closer to that curve where the bust seam and the waist seam are coming to meet at the center of the bust. Now as I get to that point, it's getting smaller and smaller. So this is where you want to maneuver the fabric. I'm going to grab the fabric because you don't want, you see how it's trying to wrinkle right there? You don't want any wrinkles, so I'm going to take the pin out and I'm going to pull the fabric out, and you see how now you can sew it without wrinkles. And so what you're going to do is you're going to follow it around, making sure that you're not getting any wrinkles. You take the next pin out and you see you're straightening the fabric as you go. No wrinkles. And then you come back out into our bigger line. Get a little bit of puckering here on the underside, but that's fine because you're going to press that down and it's going to be flat. But when you flip it over, you notice you got one complete line, and even though it looks like there's a little bit of a pucker there, there's not going to be when you press it down, because you want that line to look nice and smooth to run across the bust. Now I have the front piece done, and we also have the back piece done, which we have our darts in the back. So now we're going to work on the neckline. So I'm going to sew the shoulder seams together of the front and the back, and also of the facing. I have the neckline sewn. So what I'm going to do is take my scissors and I'm going to trim a little bit of the excess off of the neckline. Okay, now that that's done, we're going to open it out, because now you're going to determine which side is going to be your right side and which one is going to be your facing. In my case, it don't matter because both the fabrics are the same, so I'm just going to pick one. And now I'm going to do the understitch. Purpose for doing the understitch is you don't have to use the inner facing, at least in my opinion you don't. And you're going to do a stay stitch or an understitch to keep that lining from rolling to the outside. Do a stay stitch, and I'm pulling the fabric as I go. Let me zoom in so you can see. I'm pulling the fabric as I go, and I'm making sure that I'm sewing on this side of the garment, not this side. This is my right, this is going to be my liner. So I'm stitching close to that stitch. I'm going to stitch this all the way around. So I'm just going to clip the thread now. So when you finish, you turn it on the right side, and you see the right side looks nice and neat, and the underside has that little understitch that keeps the fabric from rolling to the front. So now I'm going to press this, and then I'm going to show you how we do the armholes.